So in this file, we're going to look at appending and writing to a file. These are two different concepts. Writing to a file will completely wipe out what's in that file and overwrite it. Appending will add. So let's have a look at our file. Our file has 2 lines in there. So let's test out each of the concepts. Let's close that down, let's go here. Let's open it and let's write something. But we're going to write it by setting out a string which says, let's say it is Blade Runner, again by Ridley Scott, and we'll give it a rating of 6. Okay, that's what I want to write. So what I do is I go f.write line, not lines, line, and put in S, and then close the file. And we'll have a look on what it's done. So we run it. Oh, it's got an error. File object has no attribute called write line. Okay, so there's a syntax here. Bear with me a second. So let's go back. When you have that, just go back, find the thing. It's called write. There's a write function and there's a write lines function. We're going to use the write function and see what it does. Right, we run it. It seems to have executed it. Let's go and find the file and see what it looks like. It has completely and utterly wiped the file out and just left that piece of information. Let me just correct that thing there. Right, now I'm going to save that file and close it. Now I'm going to do it slightly differently. I'm not going to write, I'm going to use the little a, which means don't delete what's in there, but just add. And this is called appending to a file, and I'll put alien in. And you can do the same thing, and let's give it a rating. We're going to write to it. Let's run it and see what happens. He says pressing the wrong button. So F10, it's run. Let's have a look and see what it has in it now. It has written to it, but you notice it hasn't given it a new line. It's just added it straight on the end. So it's quite messy. We've got to do a little bit of work just to kind of get that right. Let's save and close it. Save and close it. Bear with me a second. Let's go back to our code. Right, I had an S in there. Right. Let's run it again, and then run it again. Right, let's run it again, and this time we'll have the film, not Avatar. Let's think of a very recent film. Let's try Aliens, with James Cameron directed film. Let's pop that on as well, and let's see whether it's carriage returning. In the very first example, I'll keep the same rating. Will it automatically add in a carriage return? And the answer is no, it won't. See, I artificially created that, but every time you add a line, it seems to me that it doesn't. So what I'll do is I'll cut that, pop it underneath, and then we will try it again. Okay, so there is another function which is called write line. Now let's see if I do that and what it does to it. Right, let's open it this time. It will let me open, and it has this time added a single line. Let's get rid of both of those so you can see. Right, close that file and then run it again. So it's going to add that line on to the end. Let's go and have a look at the file, and it's done that exactly. And to test it, we'll do it one more time with a slightly different film title. Let's take Predator, and I'm not sure who directed it. I'm going to give James Cameron the credit, but I don't think he did. Let's put it about 4, and let's run it. Let's have a look. Oh, you notice it doesn't. It adds a line, but it doesn't. So when it comes to writing to a file, you have to make sure that you give a carriage return. It's very easy to sort of ignore this fact, but typically at the end of a line, if you put that in, which is a carriage return or a new line thing, watch what happens. I run it. Bear with me a second. Let's get rid of that. Let's save that, and let's see if this works. Right, so that should, in theory, write a write that line and put a carriage return. So let's see if it works. Predator, I have a feeling it won't. Oh, but it did. Right, okay, but have a look here. It has automatically, if you look at where my cursor is, it's automatically put a carriage return in. Now this is important just to make it clear to you that when you write to a file, don't assume always that it's going to put a carriage return in for you or a new line for you. In some cases you have to do it yourself. Let's run it one more time. Oh, and I've taken the S off. There's no write line, there's just a write lines function. So writing to a file or appending to a file is reasonably straightforward. Opening it, adding your string and calling write line to it. This is the typical way that you do it.